knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher because I knew I got along way better with kids than adults. It's a lot less frustrating when a third grader's throwing a temper tantrum, but like when a 40-year-old is, it's like, you're a grown person, let's do this. So when I became a coach for the very first time, it validated my single story of what life as an administrator would be, which is what the first time I walked into a room to support a group of teachers on one-to-one iPads, they literally ran away from me. And I don't mean that at all metaphorically. I walked into the staff room and they looked at me and they're like, oh no, it's the iPad lady. And they all walked out the back door. They were like, peace, no, and they hid. And I don't know where they went, but they would not hang with me. And it was constantly that I was physically chasing people to support them. And always it was like, Jenny, I get it. You're excited. You love this iPad stuff. But I don't have time for this. And it was a lot of yes buts. And it really began to weigh on my heart and soul because I truly had seen and witnessed firsthand how technology could transform the opportunities that my students could have in front of them. I saw how my students who needed the most support had access to it by having the access to the world's information, to each other, to amplify their voices. And people were running from that. And I got really frustrated, and I gotta say, I was resentful. And I started thinking about something I'd learned in grad school. How many of you are familiar with Everett Rogers' diffusion of innovation? So Everett Rogers was a sociologist, and in the 60s he developed this bell curve model for organizations, and it's how quickly innovation is adapted in organizations. And he said that the top 16% are innovators and early adopters, folks who are going to jump on board quickly and get geeked up about these things. The middle 68% can be convinced, but that last 16%, he called them laggards, are very resistant and refuse to get on board. And while I saw this and my logical brain said, okay, that's true, I thought it was more like 90% were laggards in my schools. Like all of them were just like, no, leave us alone. And going back to our metaphor, I began to think about this as the innovators and the early adopters in my buildings were the wizards, were the Gandalfs, who were like, let's go on adventures, yay, Flipgrid! And everyone else were the laggards, they were our hobbits. And so what I want to think about, and sometimes I even felt like they were dragons, like they weren't even hobbits. So then I really started to reach deep back into what I could do and did some soul searching. And I remembered this story that my mother used to tell me. There was this painting that hung over my parents' bed in my childhood home. I don't have a nice photo of it anymore. This is when we were packing up their house, so you can see it right there. And it's a painting of a cliff on an island called Jeju-do in the south of Korea. And this is Dragon Rock. And my mother would tell me this fable about Dragon Rock all the time, which, side note, disclaimer, I found out as an adult when I actually visited there and saw the placard that her story was completely made up and false. But she's my mom, so she gets to make up mom facts. And it really works for this, and it inspired me, so I'm telling you this fake story. Feel free to use it. Now, according to this fake mom fact story, there was a village at the bottom of this mountain, and the villagers truly had a good feeling. They were getting along, they were eating, like life was okay. They were like that bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like food, shelter, water. Nailed it, got it. But they knew it could be better. And there was something at the top of this mountain that they knew if they could get to, it could change their world. It could make life wonderful for every person in that village. And so they decided to go up the mountain and try and get it, but every time they'd get almost to the top of the mountain, they'd get stopped by a dragon. And this dragon would fight them and would attack them, and they'd come running back down. And so they began to give up. They're like, we can't get to the top of the mountain. There's a dragon up there. I guess this is fine. It doesn't suck too bad. Let's just continue. Until one day, someone decided, no, I know we can do this. I know we can be better. I'm going to go to the top of the mountain. So he starts climbing up the mountain. He gets to the dragon, and right as he's about to fight the dragon with, I don't know what he would fight, taekwondo, he sees on the dragon's arm that there's thorns all wrapped around his arm. So he puts down his fists, and he takes the thorns, and he puts some salve on it, and he helps fix it. And as the dragon's wounds begin to heal,